Good.
Almost ready.
Give me the thumbs up when you're.
Yeah.
Exactly, and then you can't.
Well,
Yeah. I think.
you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Okay. Well, city council meeting of February 1st, 2023 to order at 7 p.m. We stand and join me with the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So really, February 1st, 2023. Yes.
Roll call, please.
Yes. Mayor Allison.
Here.
Tom Baylor.
Here.
Kathy Sherman. Here. Jeff Guard.
Here.
Alina Meyer.
Here.
Ann Schaefer.
Here.
Kristen Carpenter. Here. And Ken Jones.
Here.
That's everyone.
Yeah, for the regular agenda.
Second.
Move to approve and seconded. Any discussion, changes? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Sorry. Forget that delay. Opposed? Motion carries. Any disclosures of conflicts of interest and ex parte communications? Hearing now, we'll move on to commission communications by and petitions from visitors. We have no guest speakers, so audience comments. The mic is open
That's just for agenda item, correct?
for agenda items,
Right.
correct? Okay, nobody coming up. Chairpersons, representatives, boards of commissioners, CCMC, Authority Board of Directors, anybody on? School board, no, it doesn't look like it. We still don't have a student council person, so the consent calendar is before you.
Take the roll on the consent calendar. Ken Jones.
Yes.
Jeff Guard.
Yes.
Alina Meyer.
Yes.
Kathy Sherman. Yes. Tom Baylor.
Yes.
Kristen Carpenter. Yes. Ann Schaefer.
Yes.
The consent calendar is approved.
Okay. No minutes, no consideration of bids. Reports of officers, mayor's report, my written report is in there, not. A whole lot over the holidays, and I was gone much of that time. Family issues and we'll be going again for the next week. For a different family issue. And thank you all for doing your evaluations and getting those in. To me, I got those all tabulated up yesterday and today and sent those out to you. You should all have a copy of that, and we'll go over that in executive session tonight. So, any questions? Okay, we'll move on to the manager's report. Helen?
Great, thank you. Seems like only yesterday was our last meeting, but it's been 2 weeks, and in that time, just want to give you a couple of updates. After the discussion with NVE around the clinic and the hospital, I have met with Ken Wright and Carrie Collins, and we'll meet with them again on Friday. And at the next meeting, I'll have an update on directions that Community Village Ibiac is taking and support that they may or may not need from council. So I'll have an update on that for you at the next meeting. We will tonight discuss the capital improvement projects list, but I wanted to let you know that we will schedule a work session around capital projects, facility condition assessments at our first meeting in April. We're waiting for final reports from our contractor on that. Bear and trash issues have been brought up again. The bear will be coming out of hibernation probably earlier this year than usual. And we've talked to Public Works and refuse around that, and I'll have a report or some suggestions at probably the first meeting in April as well. And also in April, we'll have a work session on housing where Kevin Johnson, our planner, is working with a group of folks with the Prince William Sound Economic Development District, who has hired a contractor to help us with housing issues. And also there's some working groups that are going on around the state around housing. So we're gathering information and we'll have that for you then. And in March, we start union negotiations again already, and the audit is scheduled for the end of April. And that is all I have to report. South Harbor rebuild, I don't know, Sam, there's probably not a whole lot to update.
Next meeting we'll have some stuff.
So she just said that we'll have the next meeting, we'll have an updated report, and things are just starting to really, we're in the early stages of getting things rolling, and she'll have a full report at that time.
Questions for the manager? Pam?
I'm sorry, I think when you said the housing workshop and then also capital budget discussions, that was April or March, okay. Sure.
Questions from the manager online? You guys making it too easy tonight. Okay, city clerk's report.
We are approaching the closing of the declaration of candidacy period. That is Monday, February 6th. If people want their names on the ballot, to appear on the ballot, they have to declare candidacy before 5 p.m. on Monday the 6th. And for the open seats so far, we have Kelsey Hayden has put in for CCMC board. Nobody for the 2 council seats, nobody for the 2 school board seats. And then there are 2 other CCMC board seats. But it often happens that it's on the last day, so we'll see what occurs. Anyone is able to also declare as a write-in all the way until the day before the election, which will be March 6th. That would make very interesting ballot. If that were to occur, which probably won't occur. Otherwise, I've been out for a week, so just catching up with emails still. Nothing else really new to report besides that election.
Questions for the clerk?
Yes, I have one.
Yeah, go ahead online.
So this is Council Baylor, so obviously they're allowed to do it. What's I mean, having a city employee spouse run for council, that's permitted in their bylaws or policies, question mark?
That can, Kelsey Hayden is running for CCMC board, if I didn't make that clear. A city employee's spouse, if it's a full-time city employee, the spouse cannot run for council.
Okay, I thought she was running for council. Could you repeat, is there somebody running for council in the open seat?
No people, 0 declared candidates for council at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions online? Questions at the table for the clerk? Seeing none, we'll move on to the staff corporate reports. Those are written in your packet. Questions or comments on those? Library sure stays busy with a lot of fun stuff. Any correspondence? Maybe is going to keep doing their exercises. And then there's a email from Ken Jones that I asked him to put in the packet. It kind of goes with the next item on the agenda. I think if we get into discussions on that, so. Any questions on those comments? Okay, moving on then to ordinances, resolutions, resolution 02-23-03. A resolution on of the council of the city of Cordova, Alaska, designated capital improvement projects.
I move to approve resolution 02-23-03.
Second.
We moved and seconded to approve the list as written. Discussion. Yeah.
Well, just, I think we should, yeah, just moving it to get it on the table so we can discuss and make amendments as needed. For me, I was thinking for the port and harbor renovations, that section I think is still important, obviously, to include in our capital priority list, but perhaps modifying, updating the wording around that because we do have the project going right now. And I appreciated the list that Helen included, the staff recommendations. And I think that E911 implementation would be a good thing to get on there. Added to the list as well. Discussion ones.
Do we want to hear from staff on their report?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, so I want to bring up, I obviously have staff here representing various departments and Sam representing Public Works, but I think as staff has been assessing the various facilities that we have and deficiencies, either in infrastructure or in buildings, our list has grown. And so the list in front of you, which is up for council discussion and certainly consideration of moving to the CIP list, prioritizing however you want to do it. But the list that is staff recommendations is not prioritized, but front and back, there's 18 categories of projects, some of which have more than one thing listed under them, but all of them are deficiencies or needs that have been identified by staff that we would like council to consider. So I know there's quite a bit related to Public Works, and there's quite a bit related to streets. And there's some things that are part of Parks and Rec. So I don't think, we don't have anyone here from the police department. We've certainly heard quite a bit about 911 over time, but if you have any specific questions or if you'd like the group, the department has to come up and talk about their needs. I don't know what would be most effective for you.
What's your pleasure? Kristen?
I was just gonna say that it's great to have this list. So thanks for putting it together. I thought in general it might be helpful to try to. And this would be something staff could help with, to sort it out by, obviously there's a mix of some really big ticket items like a new public safety building and pool renovations, and then there's some, I think probably smaller cost items. And so, and I think too, for our capital improvements list, it's good to have a mix of both, because we might not get huge chunks of money, but if we have some smaller items that are already identified as priorities, and we can allocate the funding that way. So I guess I'm curious to hear too how staff would update the list we have, given have some of these things that are on the list that we have might be considered lower priorities than the things that were identified by staff. So I don't know what the best way is to.
Maybe Sam can come up and speak to Public Works, and then we'll just go through the staff that's here and speak about these very specific projects. The existing list is Port and Harbor renovation, South Harbor Harbor Basin expansion, and general upgrades. upgraded community water supply, which was extending the city water supply to 6 Mile. Large vessel maintenance facility, shipyard building and shipyard expansion, the public safety building and road maintenance on 2nd, 6th, 7th, ferry terminal sidewalk and general street and sidewalk improvements. That is the existing list. There might be items that can come off, and we'll let Sam speak to that first, and then the things under public works.
Can I make a quick?
Yeah, go ahead and real quick.
Quick comment. I just kind of see, like, I like having this full list, so we have an idea of like, these are all the things you need to do, or like, we have we know this is what we need to do, it's not. We can see what's ahead or what we need to work on. Whereas this, the resolution I see as like the highest priorities that we want to give to our representatives, that they can look at the funding that's available and see what matches with our priorities. So I would kind of see them as two different documents, but yeah, we can pull from this more full document to inform the more prioritized one. Maybe that's wrong, but that's how I was seeing it.
Yeah, I don't know, I guess I would rely on Helen's expertise in dealing with these folks down there. If what is the preference of the governor and the legislature for lists like this? Do they prefer a long list that they can choose from, or do they prefer a shorter list with big ticket items?
What they prefer is having a menu that runs the gamut from costing very little to more. And the other thing that is part of this is that the infrastructure funding is available. Some of it is passing through the state, some of which opens up opportunities that we would not normally have. So I don't think there's harm in having a longer list, but I think what we need to think about is what can be accomplished in 2023, 24. It's more about timing, because the resources that they allocate would then be expected to be expended within a year or 2 or 3 award, not 5 years, 10 years out. So that would be probably, I would use that as the gauge more than anything. A menu of items that range from lower cost to higher cost, but all that could be accomplished in the next couple of years.
Mayor Allison,
Yes.
may I ask another question? When this is submitted, I know it's in the form of a resolution. But aren't, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, aren't these items also, don't they each carry a white paper that describes either their cost or time sensitive information?
There's a state database where we'll enter this information. Okay, and be very specific what they ask for. So it'll be costs, and certainly timing, certainly not so much a white paper, but essential need for those things. But it's bare bones.
Okay, so like a paragraph describing, right, okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Gardner.
Yeah, my memory is a bad thing to count on in this, but I think I remember going through this with John Bittney, our own lobbyist, that if we had big ticket items, it gave us a better chance if we got them on a CIP list and they were on there for a while. So the state could see that it wasn't a one-time thing we were asking for, it was a continuing need. So I think it might be a good idea to get stuff on that we aren't necessarily going to see here in a year or two, but we can have it work up the list and show that it's something that's important to the community.
Yeah, I would certainly say with all of the infrastructure money that's gonna be eventually rolled out to people, that it doesn't hurt to have more projects than less on there at this point in time. At one point in time, it might have been smart to keep the list small, but I think they're gonna be looking for places to unload money at some point if they get down to it, or the federal government's gonna try taking some back, I'm sure too, but Anyway. I have Sam have a go at.
Okay, so I'll go over my thoughts on the current resolution. We're doing the South Harbor. We still are looking for some gap funding. Your call on whether that stays on there. Upgrading the community water supply needs to have some more meat than just water to 6 Mile. Our number one priority in the water department is to make sure we have water to process fish. And so that includes a new booster pump, this Crater Lake siping, possibly some more piping. It's our number one priority right now. That's Tony's is large vessel public safety building, obviously, road improvements, Second Street could probably come off, we have that grant, that's done. Well, it's not done, but we have a grant. I would appreciate 6, 7, at least staying on there and doing a grant application for that. Ferry terminal is not a public works priority. I'm not saying it's not a community priority, I'm just telling you it's not one of my priorities. And yes, general street and sidewalk improvements is very big priority for this streets department. So now I'll just go to my list. So I think maybe a good way to do the 6 Mile would be a little bit bigger. General would be water services and fire protection hydrants to outlying areas. And just doing some kind of feasibility study, so it would be some kind of planning grant in the beginning. And so that one kind of got thrown in the middle of everything else. So streets, you know, I think the other thing that's really good, and Dave kind of talked about it, is every time I write a grant, if I can say it's been on the CIP list, it's just another public meeting. I mean, I use the planning and zoning list, I use Parks and Rec, if they mention it. Anywhere I can say that it's been put out into the public is points. So it's important that things get on there. Doing a Chase Avenue upgrade grant as well. So I'm also doing upgrade pedestrian walkways. These are all state community STIP and ATAP. Those are the ones that we do the grant, we do a match, and they do it. So they're low impact to us on resources within the staff. It would be great to do that on there because it's there. A wheel loader for the streets department. They currently use the water departments, which is from 1992. It's getting old. Ditches, cleaning out ditches, digging culverts, whatever they need to do with it. They need to get a new one, and a new road grader from also 1992, getting old. I also want a loader, but I thought I could. So sewer upgrades, we really need to upgrade sewer plants. We need to upgrade our SCADA. We need to upgrade the poop pond. That is from the early, the last upgrade was done in 1998. We just had a little crisis where the clarifier stopped working, which means it wasn't scooping on the bottom. They had to drain the whole thing. They had to take it all apart. They had to. So that's a big deal in the world of DC. We shut down treating in that manner. We still treated it. We didn't just dump raw sewage, but we still treated it, but in an alternative method that you only use when you have an issue like this. So that stuff is all getting old. There's anodes in that pond, in that tank, that all need to be upgraded. The lift stations, we're working through the lift stations, some with new pumps, but some of them are very old school. They're walking down. They're going down 35 feet on a ladder in a manhole to get to the pumps. It's not a very safe situation. There's other ways you can do it now than when those were developed. And they just need some love, you know, it's a corrosive environment. There's the force main that runs across ODX loop. I'm not even sure when that was put in the early eighties. There's always, cleanouts. So there's always the opportunity for exposure to salt water to get in. We've had to repair some of those cleanouts and reseal them. And it's getting old, so anytime you lose pressure, the force main is enforcing as well, and you're getting water and infiltration into the system. And we still have asbestos pipes, some cast iron pipes. That need to be upgraded, those are old school, very brittle, any earthquakes, any big rocks, this tend to get done. So, yes, so I have a long list, and if they want more, I can give them more, but the other one I kind of tried to emphasize on those that I'm gonna be writing, trying to get them. So that they're on the list within the city, but I can just slide that resolution with the board.
They were discussed at this public meeting,
Right,
right there.
yeah. I'll get them in. Yeah,
The least oil building is
that's Tony's.
Tony's, okay.
Yeah.
Are there any questions then of Sam? I think what she's describing is, real health, water supply, sewer upgrades that are really needed for essential services. So, are there any questions on those? And as she described, upgrading the community water supply, she would probably then replace that with item number 7, add number 6 on the new list. And then streets infrastructure, the street road improvements, number 5 would be upgraded with number 17. And then adding the sewer upgrade, number 18 would be added to the resolution that is being amended right now.
Yeah, and I think for number 7, we didn't really have distribution and improvements. At least that's the one. Probably when I was trying to call them. But yeah.
I like, I know I said earlier, the public safety building on the list, we think it's a big ticket item, but if we just, for now, if we keep it on the list and just talk about, like it says on this other sheet, preliminary site engineering and site prep, that's not as big ticket.
Yeah, let's try to break it down.
Yep, yeah.
I mean, I think, for some grant opportunities, like for instance, for sewer, maybe a grant wants to replace lift stations, but they're not interested in fixing them, clarify. So we're trying to. And generally, we say the whole package you get, you can piecemeal it out like that, but also helpful for. Understand.
Member Jones,
I'm pretty much good with everything we just talked about, adding that. I don't see a need for it. I've got quite a few things that were, in my opinion, maybe missing from the staff recommendations that I feel like I would like to talk about, maybe adding, under the port and harbor renovations, like to see us rebuilding 3-stage dock as a specific item that was, we had the funding for, we had to push that funding into the harbor project. So I'd like to just get that on the list somewhere because it's long overdue and is a public safety hazard at this point. The South Harbor replacement, I want to keep it on the list because we do have a funding gap that we're still looking to cover. So I think that at least until next year, we should be on the list. The large vessel maintenance facility, I feel like we've kind of gone down the shipyard building road through a private solution, so I'm not sure if that really needs to stay on the list or not. We leased out the spot where we could build one. It's now leased to a private company and they're gonna build one. So does that need to be on our list or not? I guess like to ask maybe Tony. And then moving on, the replace the ski hill radio shed. I feel like we need to have bigger conversation about some of the needs on mosquito.
That's a police related.
Yeah,
This
and I don't have
is-
any problem with replacing the radio shed, but I just also feel like mosquito needs some more love. And that's something that I would like to have added on our radar is we need to repaint those lift towers. They're down, bare steel in spots. They're rusting away. We're gonna lose that lift if we don't do our maintenance on it. I'd also like to see us pursue putting snowmakers on the big hill and lights on the towers, so we can expand our tourism capabilities. The pool and structure, I'm pretty much good with, except for I want to see the addition of a waste oil burner. To heat the pool. And I would like to see something on here about land development. And housing and construction stuff.
Tony, do you want to just go through the items on the recommendation list that are related to Harvard?
Yeah, I would agree on the shipyard building that it looks like we're going that route, privatized. It would be nice to keep shipyard expansion improvements on there. We can always use more spaces down there, and with the building taking up some of that space now. It'd be nice to get some more. I agree on the South Harbor side that we're still looking at other things. We're not completely finished with this project. There's things we had to cut out of it. So if we could leave that on and maybe get some upgrades or, stopgap money if we need it. Let's see, what was the other one here? Waste oil building. It'd be great to have it. We'd say that we need the harbor, the city, everyone, a lot of money instead of having to ship it out. If we could filter that oil and get it cleaner for everyone to burn, to make it more efficient. Take less man hours, maintenance and everything, it'd be great. On top of that, of course, we looked at it as that building would be a place to put our equipment. We have a garage to put our equipment, so just sits out in the weather. That one was a pretty big one for us, and we looked at it, and the price was huge to do a building, a basic building too. So if the state would kick in with a CIP, throw some money our way, it'd be nice to do that. A big one, I think Sam mentioned it, but Breakwater Ave it needs to be stabilized over there, and that, and we looked at doing that, the PID grant, that would solve that problem. But one way or another, whether we do get the PID grant, we resubmit, really be nice to get that fixed, and that's a citywide thing. The parking areas are going away as the roads away, and it's just falling in. So we've talked to the Corps, and they said it's our problem, so. Yeah, and of course, water is 6.5 miles, I think it's great, so we're out there.
The Harbor Basin expansion is number 5 on the list.
I would love to see it. I mean, it's a huge project, and we're talking a lot of money to move that breakwater. I mean, yeah, for me, yeah, it's a great priority. Whether it's the right place to spend money, there's other projects in the city right now that really need some money thrown at them. So, I mean, the harbor's taking up a bunch of city money and grant money and everything right now. We can finish the project we're working on and get it where we want it and do a few other small things, it'd be really nice. But I mean, honestly, I think that's another $40–50 million project. So just to move that breakwater out and dredge. So, yeah, if I had my way, we do that. But I don't know if it's a true priority for the city as a whole.
Jones,
I'd like to keep it on there. I think I was the one that put it on there in the first place. I do think that, stemming all the way back to the 2013 Southfield development, planning meetings, it was kind of identified as a community priority to extend that fill and to expand the basin. So, just because it's a large ticket item, and yes, we're not going to get to it probably within the next 10 years, but like we heard earlier, it doesn't hurt to have these things on the list for a while. And we're out of space. We don't have any more fill. I mean, even when this new harbor is complete, we're going to be at 100% stalls. So the new harbor that we're getting is great. It was much needed, but it's not solving the problem where we just don't have enough slips. So be nice to have new slips for gaining in the spots where we need, but. We still need to look at expanding for the future, in my opinion. So I want to see us remove that.
Anything else for Tony? You want to bring the parks up?
Yeah, parks, please.
Councilmember Baylor?
Yeah, I would like to go back to what Sam was talking about with the water and water treatment systems. That really puts up a red flag for me. If they're indeed getting poured down and need immediately repair or upgrading, or in the near future, that should be one of our highest priorities. Or literally, without that water treatment system, this town comes to a halt. No progress can be made. So I don't know how serious that is, but if that's the case, I think we better look at that really strong and get some funds to upgrade that system. So, thank you.
Okay,
Alright, so obviously the current listed presented on page 26 doesn't actually have any parks and recreation projects on the current list. Whether that was an oversight or
It's last year's list. You weren't here.
yeah. So we've got a number of projects. We all know that our facility is getting older. So, you know, the pool was 50 years old. The Naki Recreation Centre was built is 85 years old. Links to some serious costs. So we've got a list of things. We commissioned Copman engineers to provide us assessments. We're getting that information back to us. There's a 5-week delay on some of the cost estimates. It's taken a bit more time than hoped, but we do know, for example, we've got one back for the swimming pool fund estimate to remediate things which are wrong and to have improvements around ADA accessibility and building code compliance is estimated at close to $5 million. Badaki, again, it's code compliance and ADA compliance issues. It's coming at just under $3 million. The rest of my buildings here, I'm still waiting on cost assessments, but a number of them, in terms of the restrooms, they recommend demolishing them because of end of life. So the question needs to be, do we want to replace them or not? Skaters cabin, and the recommendation is it's at its end of life and needs to be demolished and replaced with into construction. We're talking millions. It's no way around that. Yeah, so we will have a workshop in April once we get all our figures in. And we can, yeah, pull some turkey.
Could you talk a little bit about the importance and the immediacy of the full liner?
Yeah, so the pool liner that was installed in 2012. My understanding is that it has issues, it's leaked. Or has pinhole leaks in it. We don't know the extent of the leaks. We're not losing water, significant water that we can measure. But the liner itself is rippling, which is not a good sign. Water gets under that liner. It's now that when you pull salt water, it's not going to be a good news story. If there's significant damage, so the liner needs to be replaced. It's at the end of life. The estimate for that is approximately $200,000. The roof is also a priority. That's estimated to be $800,000. Yeah, it's not great reading, but it's professional engineers' firm's opinion of the state of our asset. So yeah. We need to make some decisions.
One of the things that, in speaking with Louis students and Gary students, that they suggested was to having things under $500,000 that could be done immediately, that they could feel good about and would impact our community. And this is one of those that our was a tremendously huge asset for our community. And that liner is, looking at the engineer's photographs that's coming loose. And it is only going to make matters worse if it fails. So that's one of those projects that I think we could easily champion in Juneau under 500,000. If we could perhaps get that thing funded. So those are the kinds of projects that I think we might, want to have a few of those low hanging fruit, high impact projects that would be an easier sell in Juneau. This year, they will not have the capital resources that they've had last year. In fact, money's probably going to be a little tight. So for me to go to Juneau and get $3 million or $5 million or whatever, it's going to be difficult. But to get 200,000 or 400,000 under 500,000, I think would be good for yourself. So we'll be looking for those kinds of projects that you all think are priorities. And staff certainly has identified a few of those that could go forward.
Councilmember Jones,
So I think that maybe the 3-stage dock would fit into that criteria. We had 300-something thousand allocated to it that we had to pull into the ARP project, so maybe get that in your back pocket. As far as the pool upgrades, I'm all for replacing the liner. I think $800,000 to replace a roof seems steep. I'd really like to see that report so I can understand why it's quoted it so high. And also, yeah, I don't know if those could get emailed to council or if that's just not done yet or.
We don't have all the reports, so when we do get them together, our plan was to have that work session very early April when all the cost estimates are in, so. Yeah.
And the instruction to the engineer to be conservative in terms of cost, I'd rather come in higher than come in lower and then find out we're gonna get stuff. So, yeah, they've got a 35% contingency, 5% unique market risk for Cordova in terms of prices going up 5% between now and between now and summer. So it's probably plus or minus 30%, 40% thing, right? And you're not going to know until you actually go to market what it comes back at. So, yeah, I'd rather be on the side of conservatism.
I'm a little leery with the engineer's assessments just because of my own personal experience in the past years. A lot of building that, and he was told to tear it down end of life. It's gonna cost you $1 million to fix it, and I fixed it for 80 grand, so.
Yeah, sure.
It's
Yeah, in the day, I've got a professional advice, it's not mine. I'm not an expert in building engineering, so I'll take advice and we'll put that into the mixing bowl.
I'd still like to see a restroom at the elementary park. But then if you have
The school?
school,
Okay.
it's fine during the day.
Yeah.
But once the school doors close, you'd still have to.
Yeah.
Crap and pee, and they do it in the woods,
Yeah.
behind the dumpster at the Forest Service.
Yeah. Any other questions for me? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so. We have on the floor. The resolution on page 26, as written there. Are there any amendments to this? Councilmember Sherman,
So I have a little list here, and I don't know if anybody wants to take notes. But these are my suggestions. So number 1 should remain Port and Harbor. And I'm gonna list all the subtitles but I don't know if they necessarily need to be this way and or listed with cost. I would think those would come later, but A would be South Harbor, B would be North Harbor Efficiency and Safety, C would be Cold Storage Facility. D would be Rebuild Three-Stage Dock. F would be Waste Oil Building. And then G would be Shipyard Expansion, and the last one would be the Harbor Basin Expansion in that order.
Could you back up?
Yeah, I might have got my little letters mixed up, Kenny.
So I've got down to D and then,
Okay, I'll just go through without my letters. So first one, South Harbor, keeping it up there. North Harbor Efficiency and Safety. Which basically includes all those things listed under that. Cold Storage Facility. Rebuild Three-Stage Dock. Waste Oil Building. Shipyard Expansion. And then Harbor Basin Expansion. And then I'm open to prioritizing those, but that was just based on our conversations. So then the second on the list would be Public Works, and I combined water, sewer, and streets. And basically I was looking at, again, everything on the staff's list, which would be number 6, would be first, improve water delivery during peak water usage. I think that's the most critical thing that needs to be on there, including all those things that were identified. The next one would be sewer upgrades and all those sub lists. Then streets, infrastructure and equipment, the sub list. And then finally, water services and fire protection to outline areas, the feasibility study. And I guess I kind of just am looking at the prioritizing and dollar amounts. So we'd have a mix of big dollar, little dollar subject. Number 3 on the list would be public safety. And the first thing would be the E911. And there's subcategories. Number 2 would be the new public safety building and engineering design. Which I think some of that's already been done. It's old. And then 4th on the CIP list would be Parks and Rec. With the pool being definitely number 1. And again, that offers us the opportunity of lots of different price ranges. I put number 2 as a ski hill. I really agree with Ken that it's an undervalued economic source for us.
Just a quick question, because it's not under Parks and Rec currently.
Yeah,
I guess it falls in the category, but it hasn't been under our view. So we have a contract renewal coming up. Right now, we own it as an asset, sort of like we do with school. That's kind of how we treat it. And then there's a nonprofit, nonprofit entity that runs it on our behalf. And we need to kind of address it as one of those infrastructure needs, but it isn't currently parked under Parks and Recs.
so maybe I understand the technicality of all that, and maybe we break it out as it would be, I don't know whether Parks and Rec is even the right title for this, but it's
Say recreation facility.
recreation facilities, maybe.
Recreation facility.
So it's not necessarily,
I'm not saying that it's part of the Parks and Rec.
right,
I think the legislature would look at it, as park,
yeah, and
the recreation.
the state has, given us the land to operate it, so. Anyway, somehow we're gonna put the ski hill right up there, and so yes, this radio shed, but as Ken said, there are other things. And then the Darky Rec Center, I would put above Skaters Cabin. And then I would put Skaters Cabin and then the playgrounds. And then again, I just put those in terms of looking at dollar amounts. Which we can chip away at. So those are my thoughts.
There's one thing that I did notice that was sort of overlooked, and I just want to bring it to your attention, is the Mile 4 substation foundation. The radio shed, the substation are all related to public safety. It's right now, and I think Councilman Baylor, you went on site and saw the condition of the building at the substation. Correct? I think, I don't know, anyone here from public safety.
Yeah, if I could respond to that.
Go ahead, council.
Yeah, I think that's a must have repair. That building is in danger of structural damage if nothing's done to it. So that's almost a must have to have done. And you can kind of echoing Councilman Jones's comments, you can bring an engineer in here and he can tell you it's going to be $500,000, but that thing can be fixed relatively easy with some of the local people we have here, but it does need to get addressed.
So I could go into public safety.
Yeah, I'd be open to adding it under your public safety.
And maybe we move it to number 1.
Yeah,
And the radio shed, just so you know, is just a small building that's used to, it helps with the emergency signals that we transmit through the community. And the shed, I guess, is not necessarily going to protect the equipment in there for much longer. So it's a public safety.
Up at the top of the antennas.
Mhm. And that's specifically to help with the broadcasting of public safety information and signals.
yeah, I'd be open to having that added under the public safety tab. My call.
Schaefer.
I have a question just about the cold storage facility. Would the city's role in including that on the capital improvement list just be to help with permitting, or would it be like getting the infrastructure, or is it private industry that would get by the infrastructure? And so I just didn't understand necessarily what role the city would have beyond like having permitting or championing it for the state.
Well, there's multiple different ways you can build a cold storage facility, and the way I would like to see us pursue is just locate land for it and lease it or sell it to a private entity. But you know, there might need to be some collaboration, and I know Kristen's group has been working on like an actual building that's more of like a community processing facility. Yeah, what I was looking for is a chunk of land somewhere that we can lease out for.
Yeah, we have one through the list, yeah,
Well-
I'm wondering.
I mean, it doesn't mean it's not a project of interest, but it's, if we're not actually, I mean, in terms of us getting money or asking for money for something, we're not.
Well, we might need money to develop that land. I mean, we have the public safety building site prep and everything on here, so, it might not be an item we're asking for money for, but I see it as getting it on the list and having it listed as a community priority for a while as beneficial. So that's why I'd like to have it added on this list. There is some lots even down on the existing fill that could be used for what I'm trying to do, but currently they have other junkyards parked on them. So
Maybe that can be part of land and I thought it was somewhere on here, but I think maybe you mentioned it earlier, the land development or land.
yeah, but see that
Land
added to the list as land development.
whatever, maybe not, I don't know if land development is the proper term, but locating other options for land, usable land within our community is.
Again, it's
Yeah,
a capital improvement item that we would want to present to our state representatives for funding.
Okay,
I guess I'm just having a hard time wrapping my brain around those
if
items.
it's in the comprehensive plan. That's where we are stating priorities and stuff. Yeah, I mean, but if we're not asking them for money, or we don't know. How much we asking for, but how does it rank as a priority compared to like water and sewer, these other things, so I guess that, yeah, it seems like. Something we would wanna try to. Either find other funding for, because it's not gonna cost that much, as much compared to what we need, some of the items we need from. That we definitely need help from the legislature for. Not saying it's not a priority, like I said, if it seems like getting it or making sure that it's in the comprehensive plan, which it probably is, I don't know.
it
You,
was.
yeah, so it's still there. Yeah, so,
We need to. We need to get to the point where we have identified. What we need and where we need it. And then. Go out for. For the money at that point in time, when we have. If we can't convince ourselves. What it is, we're not gonna convince them to make happens.
I mean, we're not saying it's not important, it just, I don't know if it rises to the. Level of like water and sewer and the radio shed and things like that.
So I have a question for Councilmember Sherman. Was that an amendment? To change the list to your newly refined list?
Yes, it was an amendment.
I'll second.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded.
Okay, who has that written? Because.
Mr. Mayor?
I would suggest when we're done tonight going over this, that we pass it on a first reading and then bring it back typed up in good format. And in the meantime, staff can, I don't think we're losing things on the legislature side. Staff can still enter stuff into that system.
And I think once we know what your priorities are, like more on the list, we can augment it with dollar numbers, estimates, and that kind of one paragraph thing that you guys are always needing to give some rationale for why. So we'll make sure that that's included.
Yeah, I would say we come back with a final reading on this. Councilmember Gardner, you had something?
Yeah, I had a question of exactly where we ended up on the cold storage idea. I think anything to facilitate a longer processing season here in town is a great deal, but community cold storage and stuff have a long history of not quite working out. The last one I can think of was the one in Anchorage that became a church. I think before we start throwing stuff on the capital construction list, we ought to at least think it out and figure out what we really want. I'd be more in favor of figuring out what we want. I mean, this may be for a short-term need with local processors and labor and transportation and all that gets cheap again when fuel prices go down and tariffs come off. It may end up going right back to China and we'd be sitting here with a big facility and nobody to play in it.
Yeah, what I'm looking to do is not a big facility, it's literally just a chunk of dirt with some electrical pedestals that you plug connexes in.
No, I understand that, and I'm not against any of this at all. I just think we need to at least talk about it with ourselves. So we understand what it is we want before we jump down the tube.
And if we. So maybe it doesn't go on there right now, but if we revisit this every quarter, we have other future opportunities to add in.
yeah, we can better understand what the city role would be.
Could we have a workshop on it?
It would be nice to do it in conjunction with maybe PNC to discuss land.
You can bring it up.
All right.
So can I friendly amend your agenda or your amendment to remove 1C, the cold storage facility from this list?
Yes, that's fine with me, and then I was also I thought the idea of moving the ski hill radio shed to under public safety would maybe carry more weight. And I like that idea as well, so. And I would put that as. I would put the Miles substation at number 1. Then E911 and then the new public safety building engineering under public safety.
And speak on radio.
Yeah, what did I just say? Yeah, sorry. Mile 4 substation, number 1. Replacement of the ski hill radio shed, number 2. And then E911 and then new public safety building engineering. And I made a note to send this to you.
Oh,
I'll second that,
Okay.
if that's what we're doing.
how about this? We go around and get people's comments on this list and kind of the organization that's been suggested and we move this resolution to staff to get it in good written form for us. I think as long as we go through and get everybody's thoughts, then staff will know, you know, for entering it into the state system and such, so we don't lose 2 weeks of legislature time. And I think that would be better. I don't think anybody's exactly clear how the list is right now. And we can be, you know, with a little time, maybe when we're done here, when it gets moved to staff, that maybe Councilmember Sherman, if she's if they can run it by her and work with her to get it in a form we can look at it next time. So Councilmember Meyer, do you have any thoughts on this list or additions or subtractions to it?
Nope, I agree with the discussion that has been had already and your suggestion of moving it to staff and working with Councilmember Sherman to kind of get it ironed out and put it before us again. But I really appreciate the staff recommendations, and I have a feeling this is going to be a little bit longer of a resolution than we have now, but I think these are really important items on there. And I like the structure of having it, number 1 be the Port and Harbor, 2 Public Works, 3 Public Safety, and 4 Parks and Rec. And I do think for the purpose of this list, putting the ski hill under Parks and Rec just reads clear. It is a recreational facility, and you know, we have prioritized Parks and Recs in our budget this year, so I think reflecting it on our capital improvement projects too is a good idea. So those are my comments. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilmember Baylor?
Yeah, I like where you're taking the discussion here. We'll think about this and come back. But I also would encourage staff to come forward and give us their priorities. Don't be, just because council is talking about one item, don't be shy about coming forward and say, we really would appreciate getting project X, Y, or Z done. We can always say no, but people that are on the ground have to deal with some of this infrastructure that's falling apart. I'd like to really hear from them too. Thanks.
Good. Councilmember Gardner?
Yeah, I think the discussion's been good on this. I think I'm in agreement with most of it. The top of the lists on each of the subsections, I'd like to see deferred maintenance items. I just want to make sure we don't lose anything we got. And then move on down through the list from there. Anyway, yeah, I would like to talk about it again next time after the staff's had a chance to work it over. And I agree with Councilmember Baylor's suggestion on staff commenting on our comments. Yes, that's it. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Councilmember Carpenter?
Don't have anything to add. Thank you.
Councilmember Jones?
Yeah, the only thing I'd like to add to Councilmember Sherman's list, I like where we're going with this, and I think bringing it back after it goes to staff is definitely the clean way of doing it. I appreciate that. The only thing I really would like to add that's kind of missing is the land development and housing. I do think that we should be asking the state for some help in this because they have land around us that they could just give us. And then we also have the capability to punch roads and we're already asking for street improvements. Why not build a new road that could then get subdivided and sold off and the city gets all the lots? Let's get some housing built. So I'd like to see that on the list.
Member Schaefer?
I don't think I have much more comments beyond all the other comments I've already said, and I would be in support of including a 5 for like land and housing development. It is, yeah, a really important priority for us here, so. Sure.
Councilmember Sherman, who's the maker of the motion?
I think I've said enough, but I too would be in favor of adding a 5th for land development, housing, cold storage. Maybe UAA land, middle trust, welcome middle trust funds.
Okay. So is that clear for staff to talk with your department heads and get a priority list and talk with Kathy and make this list and we'll see this resolution. So I need a motion to
Offer the question.
move to staff.
I move to refer this to staff.
Second.
Move a second to refer to staff. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor, say aye.
I,
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, on to pending agenda, CIP list, calendar, elected and appointed officials list. Councilmember Jones wanted a workshop. Cold storage?
Yeah, we might be able to just add it as a bullet point on the. Well, I don't really, I already had a lot of housing, so. Maybe a land development / cold storage. Job. I'm open to staffs.
So we have a housing work session that will be happening in early April. And land identification and land use is all part of that discussion, and we could add land use in a more broad sense than just housing if you wanted to.
Okay, let's do that then. And you also had a facilities workshop.
So the facilities, we're gonna, hopefully, we should have all the data from Kaufman Engineers. We'll have, we'll give an overview of what's going on with each of our facilities, what are different maintenance needs, and what are the long-term goals, and help you guys understand what the cost implications will be over time. And
Expect that in April as well.
yeah. We're just waiting for the engineering has been done, and they've moved that onto a cost estimator so that they can give us more accurate information about what those various recommendations would cost.
The guy has to start his job over every day. Anything else? What else is on the pending agenda? You said there was a.
Well, there was.
Bears.
Yeah, there's some interest in identifying some ways to mitigate some of the bear issues that we have, and the refuse department has some recommendations or ideas, and we'll do that as soon as they, and we might be able to do that this in March, but that could be pushed to April as well.
That's just a report from them or a work session?
I don't think it's a work session, it's a report. These are things that we can do. These are things that are possible. These are the costs of those things. And there are some ideas that they've been sharing. So we'll have that at an upcoming meeting.
You want to involve Charlotte at some point for the workshop again, or?
She's involved in the conversations at the staff level, but the recommendations that she's made are being considered. If you want to have a work session, we should maybe bring her in and maybe people from other.
We just talked about it,
Yeah.
public
Mhm.
information, that maybe it's more.
Oh, yeah, public
After that.
information, yeah, this is just things that city can do around the refuse problems. There's.
Oh, what else we got, Susan? Yeah.
So can I ask one quick question?
Just a minute, Councilmember Gardner, 2 on the list. Go ahead.
We talk, I'm sorry, I got a little distracted for a second. Did we talk about doing the clerk's evaluation before the election?
Yes,
Okay,
that's, yes, I will work on getting that.
yeah, maybe.
Hopefully
For the first-
hopefully the manager's evaluation won't take us but a couple of meetings here, and then we can get started right on the first. Councilmember Gardner.
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out where we ended up on the bear issue. I think I was the one that had been asking for this. I don't know if I'll be done in March or not. Not much competition yet.
I think we probably can address it. I don't know, Sam, we can probably. Do you want to talk a little bit? There's some recommendations that refuse or things that could be considered that refuse is looking at around bears. And we can, how soon
I don't
can we
know.
do that in March?
Yeah, I don't necessarily mean that we got to talk about it tonight or anything. I just would like to see.
I'm just scheduling, yeah, we're looking at an upcoming meeting, hopefully March.
Okay, thank you. That's all. I have a hard time. It's a little garbled here tonight on the computer. Thank you.
Anything from our list packet that we need to bring up? No? We're all good? Everybody's enjoying ice worm and basketball? I think that started officially tonight, yeah?
Yep.
Hey, have fun, everybody, with the ice worm. Audience participation, anything you want to talk about, come on up, state your name and address for the record and give us your comments.
Evening, David Janka, 1231 Cordova. Didn't get a chance 2 weeks ago to thank you for appointing me to the RCAC board. I jumped right in, and last week was a board meeting where I was seated and attended both a long-range planning workshop and 2 days of meetings. And just want to be sure if anybody has any questions about what's going on there, please get a hold of me. The representative from Alyeska served, and the board sort of forgot about it, but I reminded them about the harbor work here and hearing at that council meeting, the project manager with that mentioning the tier 1 boats. They were all interested to hear that that's a priority to make sure to take care of those. They are right now, they go through an annual recertification of that organization with the Coast Guard. And the comment period for that ends February 8th. So any hopefully supportive comment could be, if any of you submitted, they go pretty far with the Coast Guard if they're coming from communities in the spill impacted areas. And Coast Guard's just got a great website for comments. It is so easy, and you can go to the RCAC website, just scroll down a little bit, you'll see the link for the recertification, and their site is pwsrcac.org. And those comments are very much appreciated. I got in early enough to go to the Alaska Marine Science Symposium. We got to hear Ann Schaefer present her report paper to an audience of about 400 people, and a couple of good posters too from some other Scott Bedow and Rob Campbell, who also had reports with our CAC accepted. Thank you again.
Yeah, thanks for serving on that.
It was a little intimidating. It's a big packet I got right.
For the future, You can report to us anytime under chairpersons, representative boards and commissions.
Okay,
At the beginning of the meeting there, you don't have to wait till
okay, still figuring.
till the end. Yeah.
I didn't make too many mistakes.
If it's regarding yard, yes, for sure.
Wow.
Well, thank you, and let us know if you need any support from the city on.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other audience comments? Okay, we do have an executive session later, but we'll finish up with the council comments first, so we'll start online. Councilmember Baylor?
Yeah, okay, well, thank you. I Googled they're having the 9 best places to live in Alaska, and Cordova was number 1. Cordova, Anchorage, Juneau, Wasilla, Whittier. Whittier could make the 9 best list to live anywhere beyond me, but Cordova was. Well, it's a good meeting, and I think you choose the right path for that list, but I was involved with the initial planning of the fire public safety building, and I gotta tell you, I was pretty disappointed with the process and the end result. I think what was developed was rather way over the top for Cordova. For me to support a new building, I would like to see a little synopsis from the police and fire department of what exactly are their needs, not their wants, but what are their needs? What do they need to perform their duties? What do they need to keep their trucks and their equipment? And then just kind of the basic model there, and that's what we should be trying to go after, not a building that has a brass pole and 30 commodes and multiple showers and weight rooms and everything else. So I think council should think about that, and maybe as a group ask for a little synopsis of what is it that they want, and what do they need. I think that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Gard.
Not a lot to say. I think we've said it all already, except I'd like to thank staff for all the effort they put in tonight for the CIP list suggestions and everything else. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Meyer.
No comments. Thanks, everyone.
Table here, Councilmember Schaefer.
Yeah, thank you, staff, for putting together the priority list. It was good to see it during the budget talks, but it was really good to be reminded of them all again tonight. Yeah, just seeing them multiple times. And thank you to Dave Janko for serving as the RCAC rep. And that's it, thanks.
Councilmember Jones.
Yeah, thanks to everybody for coming out tonight. Thanks staff for working on the CIP list, and just everybody come out and watch the basketball games for the next few days. Got some of my buddies up in California, semi-pro players. It's gonna be a pretty good show. And it's the game started tonight. They're going on right now, and they'll be back on 5 p.m. tomorrow.
Councilmember Carpenter.
Yeah, I just want to thank staff for putting together the capital list priorities. It really helps have all that laid out. So thank you for the time you put into that.
Councilmember Sherman.
Yeah, I'll just echo those comments. That was really helpful to have the staff list, so appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. We do have an executive session this evening, as I said, so look for a motion for that.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I move to enter executive session for the council discussion of the city manager evaluation. Because it is a subject that may tend to prejudice the reputation and character of the person, provided that the person requested public discussion.
She is not.
I'll do that.
She's okay with you doing it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
second.
Sorry.
It's been moved and seconded to go into executive session, discuss the city manager's evaluation. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I